Hey, welcome back to Fab Live, and we are now on our episode 6. Today we have a guest who's not actually new to us. He was also a guest from previous episodes, and he's from Biscast Man Fab Lab. Today he will going to show us how to develop a 2D assemblies. And now help me welcome Ron Cagula of Fab Lab Naga.
So hey guys, this is the 6th episode of Fab Live, and for this episode we'll be doing 2D assemblies. Now last time I did mention that I'll be doing CNC milling, but as of the moment I don't have the materials available. But then I remembered something that might be easier to fabricate and more familiar looking. I remember a music box that got trendy in the last few years and thought that it was from a Fab Lab even. So while I currently don't have the mechanical component that would create the music, we'll be making just the box instead. Now looking at the box, we can see that it's an assembly with one notable function. It must be able to open and close, but for this build we'll be able to just forget the hole for the crank and just make the box, since we won't be having the musical part of the box anyway. First that I would be doing is I'll be creating the bounding box for the entire build. So it's technically just a box that would contain, well, the entire build. So it's a box that would contain our box. Now I will be using the rectangle tool, and then I'll just input the dimensions, for which I already looked up. So the dimension is 6.4 cm by 5.2 by 4.2 cm. So since we're in millimeter, we'll just have to input 64 by 52 for the x and y, and then we'll project our z-axis using the push and pull tool. So we'll click the face, project it upwards, and then just press 42 for the distance. So now that we have this, next thing that I would be doing is I would be deleting all of the faces of the shape, leaving us just the lines. Then I'll be converting everything into a group just to make sure that the parts are non-editable for the moment. Now for this build, we'll be using an ordinary 1/4 inch plywood. It's 1/4 inch, but the measurement is like closer to 1/8. But if you ask for a 1/8, they'll give you a different kind of material. So this is the tricky part for plywood, but we'll just have to stick to it. Now for 1/4 plywood, normally it's around 4 mm in thickness. Might vary, likely around like 4.0 to 4.4 tops, but they're mostly around like 4 mm, so which is a good benchmark whenever we're doing these builds. So with that, I'll just highlight this and use the push and pull tool to project upwards and make 4 mm. So I'll make this into a component. There, so that would be our base. So we'll proceed to the left, and then push and pull tool, 4 mm, click 3 times, make component. Now since if you look at the design, the left and right part of the box are basically just the same, we'll just have to copy the same material. Now with that, I often use the move tool and then press control while moving the component. So that would just create another copy of the component there. And then if you notice, the snapping tool really helps a lot. So what that does is it just makes another copy of that component, and if you edit one part of the component, the same changes would apply to the next component. So that's the difference between a component and a group. So a group is just drawings grouped together, and the component is treated as a component, so the changes would reflect to the same components of the build. So we'll have another one on our front for an M, make it into a component, create, and then another here. Okay, now if you notice the build, at the corners you have like these really fit squares. Now this is what I meant by really knowing the thickness of your material, especially in this specific build. It's the basis of a lot of factors in order for this build to be successful. Now, going back to the design, if you would really try to imitate the design that we have here, for this side, if you want to edit a component, you'll just have to double click the component, and then one thing that you'll know if you're inside the component is that instead of the group being highlighted, you can edit specific faces of the component. Now with that, if you follow the design, we would have a solid portion here, and then what we'll be doing is like we'll create our hinges, something like this. Then we'll just use our push and pull tool to like create hinges. So if you notice that the changes is also applied to the other side, so that's what I meant earlier. But just to make sure, let's plan everything before we do anything else. Now, going back to the design, besides this really solid square that we need to consider, for the left side, you'll have technically like 4 spaces. Yeah, there. So I click that and then I use divide. So we'll be needing 4 spaces for our for the bottom portion of the fittings to go through. And since this square is technically the same measurement as this square, what I would be doing is creating another rectangle there, and then then I'll be moving this. So it's important that I highlight this the midpoint, because that would be essential. So I'll be hovering it there, since we have already divided that into 4 parts, so everything will just snap at the endpoints where you divided everything. So you can just click there, and then you just have to look for the next endpoint. So that's a midpoint, so we're not going to stop there. we'll have to look on an endpoint. There's another endpoint, and then there. So we'll have our shape. So we'll just delete the square there. We just use that as reference. So yeah, there. So we have our first set. Next thing that we need to do is just use the push pull tool to just push it into the edge. There. So that's how we make the edge for our build. Next thing that we need to do is going back to the design. Okay. I'll draw our top sheet. Same thing, push and pull, make component, there. So as you can see, the same changes have been applied directly to the other side that we just copied, since they're basically the same components. Now, with this, we know from the design that our top layer is smaller than the total edge. So we'll just push and pull here. So there. So that would be our door for the meantime. And then for our front, we know that it should be lower. So we make it lower like that. Okay. So by then, again going back to the design, we know that we'll be needing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like around 8 fittings of these. Oops. So we'll just have to copy them 7 more times. So after that, we'll just have to use the same technique. So there, we have the same effect has been reflected on the other side. Now, we'll need to do the same for the other side. So what I usually do is I just copy these. So what I just did is that makes the shapes again, and then I just same thing, move and copy them here, and then oops, wrong. I just delete it. If you want to check the overall shape and the result, you can just copy the component, since whatever you'll be doing, all of the edits would be reflected the same, so that would make things easier. So since we have our shape, we'll just have now next thing that we need to do is we'll need to do our bottom, our front, and our back. So for our front, since we already have our left and right side done, what we'll need to do here is like we'll need to do the bottom part. So with this, we'll go back to the design. So we already have this square right here. already completed. So this will need 4 large spaces for the bottom, for the bottom fittings to fit, and then technically like 5 small squares for like everything else. So how I plan to do that is same thing. I just copy this shape. So still exploiting the snapping feature of this application. Now if this is the problem when you don't group everything, so if you try to move certain parts, it would distort your entire shape. So what I do with that is, since we won't really be moving this part, we'll actually be just copying this. So press Control, so we'll make a copy of the drawing here. We'll just put it here for the meantime. Anyway, so what we want to do, we'll just need to divide this into equal parts. Okay, so we have our left and right done. Well, left and right kind of done. We have our front completed. For the back, it's almost the same. So far, we have our left, our right, generally okay. For our back, we'll do the same. Now, the next thing that we need to figure out is how do we make that open-close thingy with the box. So, it's generally not that difficult, actually. So, what I would be doing is with this, I will just have just have to make a line here just for reference. Okay. So by now we know that it's the flap for the door of the box is 4 mm deep. So what we want to do is we want to be able to create a circle that's big enough for this to turn. So we'll use the circle tool and then use the reference point that we just created to create a circle big enough for the necessary mechanism that we'll be building out with this. So once we have this hole for our door, we'll make another hole. Not really another hole, it's just a bigger shape to hold everything together like this. Okay, so once we have everything, we'll just use the same technique. We'll have to proceed to our top layer, like this. So with our top layer, we'll just have to make a square. Well, this is the same shape. Project like that, and it's there. Double check. Oops. Okay. So to project it to the other side, we'll just have to draw a line here as just reference. Push and pull. Since we're basically on the same level, so you'll just have to hover your mouse there on the same level, and we are done with our build. Now to make things more interesting, since we have patterns for our design, I proceed to make patterns. Forgot to clean this up. Anyway, there. Ooh. What is this? Why is this? What's this line? Oh, okay. I get it. It's the bounding box. So anyway, to make things interesting, since our design have engraved patterns, I decided to make my own design. So I have these designed in Illustrator. So they're technically just bitmaps. They're just overlapping circles.